I struggled to find the right words to describe the BYD Dolphin. Again, just like I did with the Ep.12 and the GAC Dealership. Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a pattern here, but this time for a completely different reason. Not because it's too plain and not because it's too boring or too out there. Kind of sits somewhere in the middle. But one thing I can say is that this car has personality, a lot of it. And it's definitely going to attract a specific type of buyer. And if I'm being honest, I'm that buyer. Because it doesn't matter that this car is pink, it doesn't matter that this car is small. Because what was that one saying again? Dynamite comes in small packages. And before we start this video, I just want to give a huge thank you to the official GAC Motor Zimbabwe dealership for making this video possible. All the cars you see in this video, including some of the vehicles you spot in the background, were sourced directly from them. They've been incredibly helpful in allowing me to spend proper time with these cars, drive them, film them, and really get to understand what they're like beyond just a quick first impression. And recently, they're expanding their portfolio of vehicles to include select BYD models. They handle servicing, maintenance, and genuine spare parts support for these vehicles as well. If you want to see these cars for yourself, you can find them right opposite KK Tiles Eastleigh Corner, Amar Avenue, and McCleary, alongside Samora Michelle here in Harare. So again, massive thank you to them for helping me make this review possible, and back to the video. Now, the front of this car is very simple in its appearance, much like the Ep.12 or the Aeon-Y, because again, this is an electric car, and so there's no need for a massive grille, which over time many manufacturers have used to create an identity for themselves. I mean, I don't even need to tell you which cars these are. Most of you are able to tell just by looking at the grille. Well, this on the other hand, you wouldn't be able to tell what brand this was if BYD wasn't embossed on what traditionally would be the grille. And while we're on the subject of the grille, don't you think it looks kind of like one of those tiny masks that superheroes wear because of the bar and the lights acting as one piece? And I think that speaks to the nature of this car. It's very playful and doesn't take itself too seriously, much like... And you see that playful nature as we explore more about this car. Now, undoubtedly, the most eye-catching thing at the front would be the lights. When the car isn't on, only the two at the side illuminate. However, when you turn it on, the light bar in the middle lights up. Why they don't all turn on? It's not like the light bar is serving any purpose, it's purely stylistic. Only the people at BYD know the answer to that question.
It's because that's why.
There is also something very fish-like about it, and it's these accent trims that remind me of the barbells on a koi fish. Even those flaps lower down framing the grille remind me of the edges of a fish's mouth. Now, it may sound like I'm clowning the car, but I'm not. I think the car looks okay, albeit a bit too simple, which is a sharp contrast to the back, which we'll get to in a second. What isn't restrained is this two-toned paint job that stretches from the front to the sides, and that's one way to tell apart the regular Dolphin from the premium or design variants, which this one is. Or should I say three-toned from all the blacked out bits surrounding the windows? Down the sides you get puddle lights on the mirrors, a sharp character line lower down, very small wheels for, well, a very small car, 13 or 14 inches if I'm not mistaken, normal door handles and buttons up front to unlock and, well, unlock the car. All pretty standard stuff. And oh my goodness, this car has to have the cutest little turn signals I've ever seen on a car before. Look how small and stubby they are, which again speaks to the playful nature. The other noteworthy feature down the side is this panel, which many Chinese manufacturers use to add some character. But by far the most eye-catching part of this entire car is the light bar at the back, which looks absolutely insane. The attention to detail is immaculate, and when I say that, I really do mean immaculate. Getting up close, you can see the detail on the inside with "Build Your Dreams" written out so that there's no mistake about what car you're following behind. Talk about distinctive. And like with the MQ, the Aeon-Y, and the Ep.12, the actual brake lights are these small little lights. The turn signals are also to the side, and the reverse light is only on one side, even though clearly they could have put it on both sides.
It's because that's why.
You don't see how.
Now, in addition to the light bar, nowhere is the faux carbon fiber more prominent than down below, and I'm sure you've seen bits and pieces of it throughout the exterior. The side mirrors, for example, which is a first for me seeing a manufacturer lean into something like this, because throughout the car community, fakery is usually frowned upon.
Sir, this isn't a GTI. It's a GT lie, and lying is a felony. Straight to jail.
But here, BYD has fully leaned into the fact that these trims serve no purpose and are largely stylistic. It's nice to see a brand have fun with its design. Unlike a brand that will stick a recycled carbon fiber plastic panel on a car to save virtually no weight and then charge you an arm and a leg for a car that's never going to see a track. And that's about it for the exterior. So I've come to one conclusion, and it's that this car is a conversation starter. And if you think it's loud on the outside, wait until you see the inside. And let me be the first to admit that it's not styled as intentionally as the Ep.12 with imagery of the beach. However, that doesn't mean BYD skimped out on the details. This car has lots of them, starting with the seats. This is just an insane amount of detail for both the driver and the passenger as well. And if you look closely enough, you see ISOFIX anchor points for both the front seat, so you can have your baby beside you as you drive and still fit 3 in the back. The next thing you'll notice is the insane amount of faux carbon fiber in this interior. And nowhere is that more prominent than the center console. And take a look at what's in here. A little storage cubby. Well, let me turn on the light so you can see. If you look further in, you'll see some charging ports and a socket for an SD card. Notice how the carbon fiber extends all the way to the inside. And it's not just some plastic panel to cut costs. Now, you can fit your phone on top of the garage. However, why would you do that when you can just place it on top over here? And check out these switches over here. Let's turn the car on quickly to see how they function when the car is on. And check that out. More carbon fiber. They don't function like normal buttons. Instead, you kind of push up to toggle them, and the volume knob functions as you would expect in a setup like this. Further below, you have switches for the parking brake and what I assume is the auto brake hold switch to keep the vehicle stationary in traffic so that you can take your foot off the brake, and a traction control switch as well. Further back, you have a rubberized mat, which you can't lift up, and this is where you'll find your wireless charger. Your phone tucks neatly into it. Now, this pad is where you rest your arm, but it doesn't lift up like in other cars. But you do have storage underneath, which is quite deep, hidden, and handy. You could place a purse underneath or something you want to keep hidden. Now, another storage area found in here is the glove box, which is a decent size. And while we're here, I found yet another flare in the door bin that I wanted to press so badly.
I need to calm down. Everything's fine.
Amanda.
I'm an adult.
Up top though, no glove box because of this carbon fiber art piece that stretches from the passenger side all the way to the driver's side. On either side you find turbine air vents like the ones you find in a Benz. Now, it's not as luxurious as a Benz in here. There are a lot of hard plastics. However, it's the detail that makes this interior special. The texture of the plastics. These seashell-like vents, I mean, look at the gaping hole up front. Why is that there?
It's because that's why.
I mean, look at the little imprints in the dash, tapering off from the seashell cutouts. Even the side window defoggers have the same shape, and the defogger up front looks like whatever the hell that is.
You don't see how.
Even the map lights up top are like the ones from the Range Rover. If I were to show you, well, strictly the upper section of this car only, you would never guess that this interior came out of this car. In the center, we have a screen like in many other BYD models, such as the Atto, and it does just about the same, like its rotating party trick. I think this upright configuration means that the screen clears the two air vents to the side, but I prefer it sideways because I just like having a wider screen than a taller one. Now, I praised the layout of the screen in the BYD Ep.12 and it's the exact same layout here in the Dolphin. Bluetooth connectivity was dead easy and not a hassle at all. And immediately after pairing, the car asked if I wanted to connect to Android Auto. I wanted to see if it would connect to the car the next time I started it, and it did once the system initialized. And it's really responsive considering that there is no physical connection. This is all wireless. The one delay that was there was my trash network speed. However, for the system itself, everything was hassle-free. My Spotify worked as it should and my playlist loaded correctly, which is far better than the screen mirroring situation going on in the GAC cars. Exiting Android Auto, everything is still working in the background. I would play some music, but I could get a copyright strike, so you're just going to have to trust me. You have a 360-degree camera, which makes parking and viewing obstacles, especially in a car of this size, well, it makes it a breeze. You can change the theme of the screen to other skins, like this black and gold theme, in the same way that you would an Android phone, but I think we'll stick to the original theme and let the new owner decide which theme they want. There are plenty of other settings to play around with. Now, I realized that I said I would go a bit more in depth with the settings in my previous video on the Ep.12, but there are just way too many. I'd bore you to death with them. I will summarize by saying that the system is highly configurable, quick and snappy, and it has settings for just about, well, everything to do with the car. But the standout feature would have to be the voice command system, which works well. All you have to say is, "Hi BYD, please rotate the screen." "Hi BYD, please rotate the screen." Hi BYD, please open the driver's window to about halfway. But it does have its limitations. Hi BYD, please open the boot. And the nice thing about this system is that it also works offline, so you don't constantly need an internet connection. But I imagine the use cases may be limited without a connection. I showed you the interface for Android Auto, but what about the default car's interface? Because maybe you're using a Huawei phone in the Big 26. Well, the car's interface is also very clean, crisp, and user-friendly. You can also do things like split screen for supported apps, switch to a clock if the screen is too much for you, and things like your air conditioning can be adjusted through the screen. There are lots of other controls to do with the car, down to how long you want the headlights to remain on after you exit the car. You've got your quick access settings, but the reality is that a lot of people are going to default to using Android Auto or Apple CarPlay as soon as they enter the vehicle. We also have a secondary screen which displays all the information you can need as a driver. I didn't like it in the Ep.12 and I still don't like it in here. I think it's too small. However, it's more at home in here with the character of this car, unlike the serious demeanor of the Ep.12. The steering wheel behind the screen is exactly the same as the one in the Ep.12, save for, well, carbon fiber around bits and pieces of the wheel. Now, to exit the car, you have to hold hands with it.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
You are gay.
Much like you would hold the flippers of a Dolphin, the door itself is a mixture of soft and hard plastic points all throughout, and the design is well thought out and lovely. Now, the doors at the rear are an identical copy to the ones up front. They have more or less the same design, just pared back a bit. Check out the little carbon fiber sills at the bottom, and since we're down here, we might as well look at the mat, which is one big rubber piece that I imagine is quite easy to clean. The seats are somewhat identical to the ones up front, and you can either carry 2 or 3 across because of the armrest with cup holders in the middle. And in the center you get 2 USB ports, a single cup holder, and you have plenty of storage for your phone behind the curved seats. And that's pretty much it for the interior. It is what I would say if there wasn't this huge, well, huge in proportion to the size of the car, but nevertheless huge moonroof stretching all the way from the front to the back. Now, it is worth noting that this is the premium or design, depending on which market you're in, trim level of the Dolphin, which means things like the roof and most probably other features are extras that would otherwise not be there or would traditionally be plastic. So you do need to temper your expectations depending on which variant you find. Let's take a look at Practicality now, and to do that we have to open the electronic tailgate, and because of its size I think you could have guessed that we could only fit about one box in there comfortably. You can see that with the load cover in place there is space left to the size of the box, and the box itself just about touches the load cover, and there's a bit of space behind the box. Even if we move the box, not a ton of space, but let's remove the load cover here for a bit and place it here on the side. This is what it looks like without the cover, and we're just going to fold the seats here, which is relatively easy. No need to go around to the door because, well, this is a small car, but I'll just go around to show you what that looks like. And I'm sure you noticed these mats. Well, turns out they aren't stitched to the car and you can peel them off, which I think is a really cool idea so that you don't mess up the cloth seats when carrying dirty loads. These mats are easier to clean off. And this is what it looks like with the seats folded down. And with the seats folded down, we can fit 3 crates up front and 1 in the boot. You can see that there's no space left over to the sides. I didn't want to try and close the side doors because I was afraid the handles might get hooked onto something or get scratched. Now, when folding the seats back up, you need to be careful of the mats. You need to press down on them to ensure that they clear the slip and that they don't fold up and get permanently damaged like this one has. It wasn't me, I swear. And folding it back up, you also need to make sure that you pull the seatbelt out from behind the bench. And when everything is folded back up, this car has one more party trick. Let's remove the mat to show the bottom and place it to the side over here. And if we go back to pull on the bottom, we find more storage. And let's clean it up here a bit. And with that out the way, let's see how many crates fit into the car. And if I go to grab another one, we can see that we can successfully fit 2 crates stacked together. But will the boot close? And the answer is yes. And this is what it looks like from the inside. And since this is an electric car, does it have a front trunk? Well, to be honest, with how small the front is, what exactly do you expect to fit in there? But That didn't stop someone from going ahead and making a front trunk for the Dolphin. Free will, I guess, but I do wonder what exactly is so important that you need such tiny extra storage. I doubt you can fit a charger in there. So let's start with the battery. The base model is on a 44.9 kilowatt hour blade battery, and the premium bumps that up to 60.48 kilowatt hours. Both are LFP chemistry, meaning you can charge to 100% every single day without stressing the battery. That's actually more important than most people give it credit for. On claimed range, BYD says the base does, 340 kilometers on a full charge. The premium is rated at 427 kilometers, and those are the official manufacturer figures. Now, to put those numbers into a local context, I want to use the Ruwa-to-Harare road as a reference point. And the reason why I picked this road specifically is because it gives you a realistic mix of everything. You've got open road out of Ruwa, heavy traffic as you get into town, and the road has hills and inclines along the way. It's not a flat highway cruise. It genuinely simulates what a daily commute looks like for a lot of people in and out of Harare. The trip is around 20 kilometers one way, so your full daily return is roughly 40 kilometers. On that commute, the base model uses around 13 to 15% of its battery per day. The premium sits at around 10 to 12%. Run that across a full 5-day working week, and the base finish is roughly 30 to 35% remaining. The premium closer to 40 to 45%. Neither car needs to touch a charger during the week. You charge over the weekend and you're good to go. Which brings us to charging. There are 3 ways to do it. The granny charger comes in the box. Plug it in straight into a normal 3-pin wall socket. It works fine, but it's slow. The base model takes around 20 hours from 0 to full, and the premium around 26 hours. Keep it in the boot as a backup, but don't rely on it too much. The wall box is what you actually want at home. An electrician installs it, wires it into your DB board, and suddenly you're charging at a proper speed. The base does 0 to full in about 6 hours and 24 minutes at 7 kilowatts. The premium, interestingly, has an 11 kilowatt onboard charger, so despite the bigger battery, it finishes in about 6 hours and 12 minutes. And then there's the DC fast charging. The base supports up to, 65 kilowatts, getting you from 0 to full in around 66 minutes. The premium handles up to 88 kilowatts and does it in about 75 minutes. Infrastructure here is still growing, but for long distance trips, this is where it counts. So after spending time with the Dolphin, I think the best way to describe it is that it's a car with character. From the playful exterior to the surprisingly detailed interior, every part of this car feels like somebody at BYD was actually allowed to have a bit of fun while designing it. And in a world where so many cars are starting to look and feel the same, I think that's something worth appreciating. Now, I can't tell you what it was like to drive just yet because this particular car had literally just arrived and there weren't any demonstrators available. So that's a conversation we'll have another day. But even without driving it, I think I can understand what the Dolphin is trying to be. It's not trying to replace every hatchback on the road, it's trying to make the move to electric feel less intimidating and a little more fun. And honestly, I think it does a pretty good job of that. If you've got any questions about the Dolphin, leave them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.